right. Hello, everyone. I am Becky Farrell, Research Lead and Programming Consultant for Dance Data Project. Our series, Moving Forces, Motherhood and Dance, is composed of rapid-fire conversations with mothers in varying roles in the dance field. And today I'm so excited to be joined by the fabulous Cara Hagan, maker, mover, writer, curator, champion of just communities, and a dreamer. Cara is also an associate professor of contemporary theater and performance, known as CTP, and program director of the MFA CTP program at the New School. Cara, welcome.
Hello, it's so good to see you.
Yes, this is so great. Thanks for talking to us about being a mom in the dance field today. I'm excited to get into these questions. Okay, the rapid fire. So shall we just get into it? Let's go. Okay. All right. At what point in your career did you become a mother?
So let's see. I got pregnant at 34, gave birth at 35. And so I'd been working since I was about 19. I've been doing stuff since then. So I guess pretty far into my career as it exists right now, but I have a lot of career left in me. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you first became a mom, were there some barriers that you encountered like right away?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had started to show, and this was before the pandemic. And one of my main colleagues said, "Oh, you're pregnant. Does that mean that you're not going to be making any art anymore?" And I was like, "What? Why would you say that to me? We're not friends anymore." And it became really apparent very, very early on that oh, things are different now. Like people actually see you differently. And so, yeah, right away.
Woo! Yeah. So was there anything were there resources or support systems that were helpful to you? Like when people started to notice that you were showing and we started telling people, or then after you gave birth, were there things that were already in the works support wise for you?
Well, I have to say, because I gave birth just before the pandemic, so there was some weirdness with just being the pandemic. I mean, honestly, my entrance into motherhood was totally isolating.
Yeah.
Because, it was COVID. How could it not? And I honestly felt like I was on a raft all by myself, even though, there were people who had kids and everything who said, "Oh, well, yeah, your life is going to change. And you can take your kid along with you to go to conferences and do gigs and stuff." But oh my God, that is so much work. I started taking my daughter to things this past spring. And well, actually a little earlier than that. So this past year, I'd started taking my daughter to things with me. Yeah. So she's a toddler. Yeah. Toddlers have so much energy. You have to keep them occupied every moment. And every moment is there could be a meltdown about something really minor. Right. I wanted the green sippy cup, but we only have the blue one and my life is over. And it's I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, just everything feels like it just takes that many more steps. And I keep on saying that, the world is not made for mothers. Now, part of me wants to say parents, but fathers, people who are male identified within a relationship where there's a child present, it is not the same. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's not the same. If you are the birthing parent, you are the primary parent.
Yep.
And so that keeps on being reiterated to me, not even because my husband does not want to have an equal partnership, but because society is oh, well, if a call is coming from daycare, it's coming to me.
Right.
If a call is coming from the doctor, it's coming to me.
Right.
Just all those kinds of things that assume that you just have unlimited amounts of time on your hands.
Exactly. Which is not real.
No, not real.
At all. So is there a way that we can encourage and support partners, particularly those who are male identifying, and playing an equal role in parenting? Is there a way we can, write on those sheets for schools hey, can you call the father first? Or is that even possibilities? What are some systems you think?
I feel I don't even have the time or the bandwidth to do that.
Exactly.
So I'm you know what? I'll just take care of this. If I just take care of it myself, it'll be good and I'll just keep moving. And the thing is, when you're a high functioning individual, a lot of artists are, and especially a lot of female artists are, you're just used to rolling with the punches. Okay, I'll just do this. I'll just do this. I'll just do this. sometimes your life is in chaos, but on the outside, most of the time people do not know that. And you are just moving with it. And then at some point people go, well, this is a really great thing that you're teaching your daughter. But part of me is like, okay, cool. I want her to be self-sufficient. I want her to be able to do all the things. But then is this actually a good lesson?
Right. 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 I mean, it's really hard because then also that labor is still on you.
Yeah.
The whole time. I remember watching I have two sisters. My mom was a working mom. She was a park ranger for the National Park Service. Very different, to be a female park ranger, one of the first in the country. And I love, going to battlefields with her and signal earthworks and listening to her awesome lectures. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, you're exhausted. Like, why do you have to balance all of these things? So that's one thing I learned from it later in hindsight. Like, what does balance look like? And I think that that's really difficult still in the field for mothers to be able to balance all those things.
Yeah. And I think even things like postpartum recovery, like you're a dancer, you're using your body. Yeah. And to be honest, the medical industry is so bad at that. Like I will say that I had a really lovely birth experience. The midwife who worked with us was really lovely, but like being inside the medical industrial complex, like I actually didn't really feel that supported. I'm like, okay, my body's really different. And I'm still 2 years after giving birth addressing things from that experience. You know what I mean? But not with like somebody going, hey, I see you, mama. Let me help you out. Me going, oh, I have to like call so many people and find the right person and not know where to turn to. And just like, oh, how do I even get this done? Like, what does that even look like? I don't know. Okay. I'm on my own again. Okay.
Right.
And again, like, it isn't all doom and gloom, but it is like
difficult.
Like everything takes more steps than it used to. And I think something that has really come to the forefront for me is that you don't know what you don't know if you're not a parent. And I assumed that before I became a parent that I was like really accommodating to people with children and that I was trying to listen to them. And here's the thing, I was not. I did not know. There is no like no, you can't just do anything.
Right.
Even with just one kid. Everybody's like, you only got one kid. Like you can, and I'm like, y'all, I can't.
It's a lot.
Like one kid is a lot. I don't know how people do it with multiples. Like, I don't know how people do that. And, and obviously different stages require different types of energy for me. The newborn stage is really different than the toddler stage, which I'm sure is really different from other stages that we'll experience. But I just think that because societally we don't have A, the language, B, the desire, C, the infrastructure to really support parents. Like even when we assume we are being good people and supporting people with children, we're not doing that. And being an artist parent, being an artist mother specifically is just one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I wouldn't not do it, but I also sometimes really wish it felt different.
Absolutely. And are there, and I hate, this is the interesting part of this series, right? It's actually asking mothers for more labor, right? Like, what can we do as a field? Like, what can vendors do? What can choreographers do? Even what can some of our service organizations in the dance field do to help make this process better and more manageable? And like, you feel like you have the space, time, and energy to be an artist? Are there any recommendations for this?
Obviously, if you're going to various events and things, having childcare would be great so that you're bringing your kid along and you don't always have to pay a ton of money to bring your own babysitter or something like that. I mean, obviously it doesn't work for every situation, but there are enough situations where that would work and it would be so helpful, where it's like you and two other moms have their kids come into this festival so that you can like do some rehearsing and get on stage or do whatever it is you got to do. And you don't have to be like, oh, I don't know what to do with my child. That's one more logistical thing I have to worry about. Or like having a kid is expensive. And the thing about being in the performing arts is that despite what we like to think, that a lot of stuff still ends up coming out of your own pocket. And so being able to have funding structures that actually account for the extra financial burden that it is to have children.
Absolutely.
daycare, because you're paying for healthcare, because you're paying for extra food, because you're paying for activities, because you're paying for all the things just to keep the child alive, which means you have less expendable cash. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You travel to do a fun thing with some collaborators, travel to a conference. And while there might be some structures in place, like I'm lucky, I'm at a university, so there is some money that I can dip into for those things, but it's not endless. And certainly it still doesn't cover everything that I need covered. So I'm still going into my pocket for things.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think that, we've seen some scholarships for mothers for conferences now. And we've seen, childcare being provided for rehearsal spaces or performances, but that's still not norm. Like those aren't cultural norms for the field yet. It's still like the exception.
It's like, okay, so here's this fellowship, but I have to actually find some time to sit down and apply for it.
Right. Exactly.
Why isn't there just a pool of money where you say, hey, here's a parent, here's a parent, here's a parent, here you go. No questions asked. Like, just come. Can you come? Here's some cash. And I know that people are like, oh, but there's never enough to go around. Or how do we know that, they're going to take it seriously? I will tell you, if somebody said, hey, we want you to come to our conference, here's some cash, I will be there.
Absolutely. You would take it seriously.
Yeah. Where it's like,
absolutely.
Even going to DSA in a couple of weeks, I'm like, I got to be away from my kid for a few days. And I have to, my cash that I got from the university doesn't cover the hotel completely. So I got to come out of my pocket for that. And like, I really want to be there. I want to present my work. I want to show people what I've been working on, but also it's like, it's an extra thing.
Absolutely. It's more labor, it's more work. And unfortunately, it continues to fall on women in the field, which is why DDP is having these conversations. And I guess my last question is, are there any other ways that Dance Data Project can continue to support mothers in the field?
I mean, I think this podcast is great. I think the more that people hear the commonalities between our stories, like, oh yeah, this actually isn't just an isolated thing. And it's not just you being a wimp. And it's not just, and remembering that the arts are a vital part of our existence on this planet. And that if we don't support people who are literally birthing people into the world, right? Where it's like, artists are birthing things. Well, we're actually birthing people. So like, think about that as also a part of this artistic process. Because here's one thing that has come up for me is that a lot of funders don't want to fund work about becoming a parent. I am finding that out because I've been working on some stuff and I'm kind of like, well, do I finish it? Because nobody really seems that interested to hear anything about becoming a mother. And it's kind of consuming my life right now because that's kind of what I do most days. That's where I am at this moment. Not that there's nothing in my brain, but and just kind of like feeling like the artistic field downplays the significance of becoming a parent physically, emotionally, metaphorically, financially.
Well, we're here to highlight it. And thank you so much, Cara, for coming on here and talking with us. And thank you to everyone who's watching. And we will have more Moving Forces interviews headed your way soon. Thanks.
Yay!